never miss another Johnny Walker LA video again, make sure you subscribe and turn on post notifications so you're always in the loop for the latest Laker news, mock draft, and college top 10. While most of the 80s was dominated by Magic Johnson's Lakers and Larry Bird's Boston Celtics, the late 80s was seen as open season to the NBA championship as the two superstars faded from their prime. This is when the great Hall of Famer Isiah Thomas would make his name known as the leader of the bad boy Pistons, whose fearlessness would lead the Detroit Pistons to 2 NBA championships, among many other career accomplishments. In honor of his legendary career, we take a look at the 10 greatest Isiah Thomas moments of his career. Isiah Thomas would begin his young career as a top high school prospect from the west side of Chicago. Persuaded by the legendary coach Bob Knight, Thomas would choose to attend the University of Indiana, where he would go on to easily become one of the most decorated Indiana basketball players of all time. Thomas's freshman season in 1980 saw him secure the Big Ten championship and a spot in the Sweet 16, all while averaging solid numbers of 14 points, 5 assists, and 2 steals a game. But it was Thomas's sophomore season at Indiana which saw him become a household name after defeating the University of North Carolina in the national title game. Thomas would win Player of the Tournament honors, making him a legendary college player even before stepping foot in the NBA. After a legendary college career, Isiah Thomas would be selected 2nd overall by the Detroit Pistons in the 1981 NBA draft. Coming off a 21-61 record the season before, the Pistons would improve to 39-43, a 18-win improvement. Thomas would be a leading catalyst to this turnaround, as he started his career with a 31-point, 11-assist game, defeating the Bob Lanier-led Bucks 118-113, showing just the beginning of what he had to offer the NBA. From his very first game in the NBA, it was clear to see that Thomas had all the tools to make him a perennial all-star for many years to come with the Pistons. While flashing his scoring ability early in his career, getting his teammates involved became a more important task for Thomas as he tried to achieve team success. After 2 seasons averaging 7 assists, Thomas was able to expand his game to become an extraordinary passer as well as scorer, showing this off with a league-leading 11 assists per game in 1983. He would follow that year up with a record-breaking 13.9 assists per game average the following season in 1984, an average that stood as the highest single-season average ever until John Stockton broke it in 1989. Thomas would achieve 4 10-plus assist seasons while scoring over 20 points per game himself. Thomas's extraordinary vision throughout his 13-year NBA career has placed him 8th all-time in career assists, a testament to his abilities to make a team around him better. Basketball in the 80s was played completely different than the game today, and no way is that more easily shown than by the way Isiah Thomas was able to achieve his career high performance in points. On December 13th, 1983, Isiah Thomas and the Detroit Pistons would match up against the Denver Nuggets, and what would start as a normal regular season matchup would end as the highest scoring regular season game in the history of the NBA. As the two teams refused to lose to another, the game went into 3 overtime, with the Pistons ultimately prevailing 183-184, with Thomas finishing the game with his career high in points of 47 while only attempting 1 3-pointer. Thomas's ability to score in many ways made him one of the more unique and unstoppable players of his time. After 2 seasons below 500, Detroit would finally reach the playoffs with Thomas at point in the 1984 season. Earning the 6th seed in the Eastern Conference, the Detroit Pistons would match up against Bernard King and the New York Knicks. The two teams would go back and forth in the first 4 games of the best-of-5 series, with the two teams tied at 2 games apiece. Game 5 would determine who would move on to the next round. With the Pistons down by 8 with 1 minute and 56 seconds remaining, Thomas would score 16 of his 35 total points in the final 1 minute and 34 seconds to tie the game at 114 all. The two teams would head to overtime, with the Knicks ultimately prevailing 123-127, but it would be just one of many special moments Isiah Thomas would have in the playoffs. Isiah Thomas' spectacular passing ability set himself apart from the rest of the point guards in the league. On February 13, 1985, Thomas showed off this spectacular skill with a career-high 25 assists versus the Dallas Dallas Mavericks in a 119-124 win, finishing the game with 23 points and 25 assists, becoming one of the select few players a part of the 20-point, 20-assist club. Isiah Thomas's regular season would always be full of spectacular stat lines. With his unique combination of scoring and passing, he was able to accomplish some rare feats that only a few players would be able to achieve, such as the coveted 30-point, 20-assist game, which Thomas would achieve against Magic Johnson's Los Angeles Lakers on January 13, 1985. A rare feat that only 4 other players in NBA history would be able to achieve, but is also a legendary moment that defined Thomas's play on the court. While stacking up many regular season records, the postseason seemed to always be where Thomas shined, as his team always seemed to go to him in the final moments of a close game in the playoffs. One of Thomas' most memorable playoff moments, which truly showed this skill, was during the 1987 playoff series versus Dominique Wilkins and the Atlanta Hawks. Atlanta, which had the NBA's third best record, seemed to be a clear favorite before the series, but the Detroit Pistons with Isiah Thomas came out and shocked the Hawks in Game 1 behind a strong 30-point, 10-assist performance from Thomas. Thomas wasn't done putting a stamp on the series, as the Pistons led the series 2-1. Game 4 in Atlanta would be close to the very end, as Thomas would put up a remarkable performance in the final moments of the game, closing out the game with a game-winning layup with 1 second left, which would put the Pistons up 3-1 in the series and in a perfect position to close out the series at home. Thomas would record a team-high 31 points and 3 assists in his way to a legendary clutch playoff performance. Over the next couple of years, Isiah Thomas and the Pistons would have trouble advancing in the playoffs, as there was always a team in their way. But after a tough 7-game Eastern Conference Series loss to Boston in 1987, the Pistons finally had a breakthrough the following season in 1988, getting revenge by defeating them 4-2 in the Eastern Conference Finals. The Pistons would finally advance to their first ever NBA Finals, but would have their hands full against the duo of Magic Johnson and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, who were looking for back-to-back championships. With the Pistons up 3-2 in the series, Thomas would put on a spectacular performance, scoring 25 of his 43 total points in a single quarter, an NBA Finals record that still stands to this day. Unfortunately, Thomas's amazing game would be overshadowed by a devastating ankle injury in the final moments of the third quarter. The Lakers would be able to take advantage with Thomas out, winning the game 103-102 on a pair of last-minute free throws by Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Thomas would play the game-deciding Game 7, but was clearly limited, and with the team not at full strength, the Pistons fell to the Lakers 108-105 to earn their back-to-back championships. But Thomas's Game 6 moment will always be remembered as one of the most dominant quarter performances in finals history. The following year, Isiah Thomas and the Pistons sought revenge on the whole league, crushing teams as they cruised to a 63-19 regular season record, easily making themselves back to the NBA Finals. The Pistons would meet a familiar foe in the Los Angeles Lakers, but this time, the Lakers had an abundance of injuries headed into the matchup, and the Pistons were able to take advantage, as Detroit overpowered the Lakers by sweeping them in the 1989 NBA Finals, winning their first ever NBA championship. But this finals moment would belong to Joe Dumars, who would win the finals MVP by averaging 27 points per game. The Pistons were able to defend their title the following year, as the team stayed together to make another run at the finals. This time, their opponent in the finals was Clyde Drexler and the Portland Trail Blazers. Thomas would set the tone from Game 1, scoring 33 points and 6 assists in a Pistons win. This was just the start of a spectacular finals for Thomas, as he shot over 50% from the field and 3 in the series, finishing off the Portland Trail Blazers in 5 games, as Thomas was voted the NBA Finals Most Valuable Player of the 1990 NBA Finals, after averaging 27 points, 7 assists, and 5 rebounds during the series, and was a key figure in helping to secure back-to-back championships for the Detroit Pistons. And those are the 10 greatest Isiah Thomas moments of his career. For those who were able to witness his greatness in person, leave your favorite moment from the legendary Pistons guard in the comment section below. But until then, it's been your boy, Johnny Walker LA, and I'm out. Bow!